What's up YouTube, this is Santos representing Neo Overlay Network, and I'm back to show you guys another deck profile, and this time it's Lunalights. And I know what you guys are thinking, Lunalights in 2021? Really, Santos? You're playing Lunalights? Yes, I am playing Lunalights because I like the deck. Ever since I watched Arc-V or V or whatever you want to call it, that Yu-Gi-Oh series was pretty cool. Thought the Fusion Dimension was awesome, and how it, destroyed the other dimension. But anyways, this is gonna be a deck profile, not a Yu-Gi-Oh discussion. So I've been running this deck for a while now. After Necross, I just wanted to pick up a different deck, and I had Lunalights, and I wanted to see what Lunalights could do currently in this meta, and I want to show you my inputs on what cards make it alright. Depends on what deck you're playing. It just and how you open up. You have a good chance, because Lunalights does have an OTK potential win, but it's hard when you're playing against the best decks of the current format. So to start off, I'll show you guys, or you're pretty much your starter. She's your starter, Lunalight Kaleido Chick, because with Lunalights you're only trying to fusion summon, so you need stuff in your hand or graveyard, because there's ways to fusion summon. And between those two things, you could use with her effect. You will try to use is that once per turn you could send a monster to the graveyard, from your deck to your graveyard, or your extra deck to the graveyard, and it becomes her name. And then when she's used, or when she's sent from the graveyard by a card effect, she lets you pretty much she recycles your polymerization when you have it in your hand. But you only really, she's your starter because she lets you send the next two cards I will show you is the two Lunalight Yellow Mantan. This is what I try to do in this deck, and I've seen it's pretty consistent. Just to add certain resources back to your hand is what is the key to playing Lunalights, because of all their fusion monsters they need 3 or 2 Lunalights, and you sometimes, depending on how you open up, that's pretty much what you're trying to do, because you have 2 fusion monsters that can't be destroyed by card effects, and one can't be targeted by card effects, and can't be destroyed by card effects. So for most decks out there, it's hard to get over those 2 big monsters that have high attack, and they have that protection on the field, because they can't get targeted, or they can't be destroyed by battle, by battle and card effects. So it's really good with different decks, but when you're playing against better decks of the format, obviously those like I was playing Zoo Eldritch, they just bring out Zeus, and Zeus is already hard to out, and I'm playing Lunalights in 2021, so what could you expect? But it's really fun. I really liked it. Lunalight Yellow Mantan is another key part of your strategy, because with Lunalight Kaleido Chick, you will probably send Lunalight Yellow Mantan. It really depends on the situation and what you want, or what you're going for, your fusion plays. But you will use just more conservative, and just to add stuff in your hand, you use Lunalight Yellow Mantans to or Kaleido Chicks to send Yellow Mantan or Martin will you could use her effect to target one of your Lunalights and add it back to your hand. And then her other effect is that when she's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, she lets you add a Lunalight spell or trap to your hand. So she lets you add, the Lunalight Perfume and the other Lunalight Fusion when you need it. But that's one of your key plays, to just dump using Kaleido Chicks to your Martens just to the graveyard, and so you could just special summon her back on the field, because you could just target it and just return it to your hand. And so you keep on looping that, and it helps you out. For the next 3 monsters you'll run is the 3 Crimson Fox. Crimson Fox is really good too, because the only thing, she is also a hard normal summon of the deck, but you just like her when she's in the graveyard, or she's sent from the field to the graveyard by a card effect, because you always use polymerization. That's your key mechanic of playing in this deck. And so when she's sent to the graveyard, she could target one of your opponent's monster and make its attack go 0. So sometimes when you do come out with the best Lunalight monster, fusion monster, pretty much she comes out pretty big, and then you keep on attacking, and the one of them makes you can make a second attack directly, or not directly, but second attack during the battle phase. So it's really good. And her other effect is that when she's you could when your opponent activates a card that targets one of your Lunalight monsters, you could banish her and negate the activation, but you and the opponent gain 1,000 life points. So with that effect, it's really good when your opponent does activate certain things that target your Lunalight monsters, and they're not expecting that this protects you when it's in the graveyard. And but both of you gaining the 1,000 life points kind of sucks. But with Lunalights, you're only trying to OTK. It really does have that OTK potential that sometimes I take people by surprise because I'm playing Lunalights. And yeah, I mean, she has that that ability that I like, that when she's sent to the graveyard, she could target one monster and make its attack go 0. But nowadays, a lot of things can't get targeted, and then there's certain protections that it's hard to out, but still good. So the next 2 of that I run is 2 Emerald Bird. She's here mostly because of for name. Sometimes you just need more Lunalights in your hand. That's pretty much it, because other than that, like, she's just a hard normal summon. But when you do open up with multiples, you could just, when she's normal summon, she could discard or draw a card and discard a Lunalight, or the other way around, you discard a Lunalight to draw a card. And she's just here for the what's called the draw ability, just so you could keep on digging deeper in your deck. And the other effect is that when she's sent to the graveyard by card effect, you could target one lower Lunalight monster that is banished in your graveyard, except her, and special summon it in defense position. So she gets you bodies on board. As you can see, there's a lot of level 4s, so it is somewhat a rank 4 toolbox in the extra deck. And you'll see a little bit later. For the next Lunalight monsters is the 3 Black Sheep. Black Sheep's really good because it really helps you when you want to just test the waters during your first turn or second turn. This is a 40 card slash. I'm gonna go over at the end of the deck profile what 10 cards I added just to play online, and it kind of helped out with the Lunalights. But I'm showing you the 40 card deck profile, just like the 40 card. What people what this is just pure like Lunalight 40 card deck, and then I'll show you what 10 cards I added just for this current meta to play online and play against different decks, and just to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And Lunalight Black Sheep here, she's really good just to test the waters. I'm saying when you activate her effect, you could retrieve polymerization, and its other effect is that you could activate it to just discard her to add a what's called a Lunalight monster from your graveyard and add it to your hand. So it kind of recycles in a way, but you really use it. That's why I have 3 uses, because you really want to search that polymerization right away. And I'm saying it's a ash bait pretty much. You don't really gain, or you don't lose much, because sometimes you do want stuff in your graveyard and you still want things in the graveyard, so you can still fusion summon a little bit later, because like I said, that's a bait. You have other things to search your polymerization, or just other ways to fusion summon. So I mean, it's just it's still good, I'm saying. And another 2 of is the Purple Butterfly. 2 of, not 3, because she, like I'm saying, there are hard normal summon, but she's pretty much like an honest. When during your turn you gotta activate it, discard her, target one of your Lunalights, and it gains 1,000 attack for the end of the turn. So and her other effect, when you could do that on the same turn, when you just discard her for cost to activate her effect of targeting one of your Lunalights. When she's in the graveyard, you could banish her and banish her to special summon a Lunalight monster from your hand. So she pretty much extends with Kaleido, like from the beginning, as I showed you. Sometimes you do want to do that. You do want to use Kaleido effect to just send her to the graveyard, so you have a Lunalight in your monster. Sometimes, most likely, you have a level 4, so you could just banish her to special summon a Lunalight from your hand. But it really depends going first or second. This is a second deck, because you're trying to just OTK, just to swing over your opponent's board and pretty much try to destroy their board with Lunalights. Even though Lunalights, it is slow, but I see that when you go first, it's not as strong going second, you know? But it doesn't mean you can't go first. It just means that you kind of you can't go full on your combo. You just gotta act conservative, you know? You just gotta set something and that's it. And even take some damage if you have to. And that's pretty much it. That's why Purple Butterfly 2 of is just really good, because like I said, she's an honest and she lets you extend. And for the other 2 of is your Lunalight White Rabbit. White Rabbit, same thing. She's just a hard normal summon, but when you have Lunalights in your graveyard, she just once she's a normal summon, she could special summon a Lunalight monster in defense position, and then once per turn, you can target a spell and trap your opponent controls up to the Lunalight monsters you control and return to the hand. So like a hate grenade. But that's more and more back row decks. But I haven't really. It really depends. I've seen back row decks and I don't see them. So I mean, it just goes. What I've been running, or I've seen a lot online, was Zoo Eldritch and Dragon Link. So that's what I've been seeing most, or like most representation. I'm not saying every single game it's them. It's just that I've seen on nights that more people are playing them. And the next of the 2 Lunalight Wolf and with the 1 Blue Cat, because Blue Cat is just here for the name. You just really do need a lot of Lunalights in your hand for fodder and in your graveyard, because that's the main way you'll fusion summon. Lunalight Wolf, her effect is what you really use is her pendulum effect, is that you could just place it in a pendulum zone and special summon, fusion summon a Lunalight monster from your field, using your monsters from your field or graveyard, and banish them. So you try to bait out as much things as you can, and then try to search her. Even though you destroy certain, or send stuff to the graveyard like your Lunalight monster, you want everything in your graveyard. That's why you will go to your link plays, or depending what you want to do, just send certain things to the graveyard. Like even like I'm saying, Purple Butterfly, just send her to activate her effect. You just pretty much want them in your graveyard. And Lunalight Wolf just helps you fusion summon, and it's really good. For now, that's all the 21 or around there monsters. Now I'm gonna go over the spells. Going over the best Lunalight spell is that Lunalight Perfume, because you could target one of your Lunalight monsters and special summon it from your graveyard. And the other effect is that when it's in the graveyard, you could banish it to and discard 1 card to add a Lunalight card to your hand. So I mean, sometimes you do want this in your graveyard, and you like to extend further. Sometimes when you have Lunalights in your graveyard, like Black Sheep, sometimes you activate her effect. She's in the graveyard, then you could still use Lunalight Perfume right there and then. So it's really good in that part. And the other effect is that when you're banishing it to the graveyard, just to add one of your one Lunalight monster from your deck to your hand, pretty much you will always search or use this effect to search your Lunalight Wolf. Well, that's what I usually do, because by then I will have all the Lunalights monsters in the graveyard pretty much to use the Lunalight Wolf's effect, because that's pretty much my last thing I'll do before I go into the battle phase, because by then I'll have already a somewhat established board with something depending what I bring out. And Lunalight Wolf, just effect at the very end, just to bring out one of your big beaters, is really good with Lunalight Perfume, because that's how you will search it. And for the next Lunalight spell, and the other best one too, is Lunalight Fusion, because you could fusion summon, you could activate it when during your turn, right? So the next thing you will do is pretty much when your opponent has an extra deck monster, you could use one of your you could use materials from your deck or from your extra deck. So when you don't have enough materials in your hands, Lunalight Fusion saves you, because she lets you, use depending what you need. Sometimes you do want the extra deck monster, the name of the extra deck monster, which is I think is Panther Dancer sometimes, or Leo Dancer, depending what you need. It helps you bring them out, and when you have your opponent, that's why you go in second. It's a little bit better going first, because you will have, get your opponent will have extra deck monsters when you go first. You don't get to use the full advantage of this of this card effect. So I mean, Lunalight Fusion is really good going second, and I always pretty much see it when you run 3 versus running 2. But I also run for the fusion package. I run 1 polymerization with the 1 super poly, cause not 2, cause it always clogged me when I was seeing 2. So when I was running 1, I was always searching it with black sheep. There wasn't no issue when I didn't need it when I need it, but sometimes running 1 does suck. But I mean, Kaleido check 2, like you always use their effect to recycle it. So I mean, seeing it in your hand was not the problem or the issue, and even having the multiples in your deck, it wasn't not the issue. Lunalight is just really slow. Like that's the problem with Lunalights. Sometimes it's they don't swarm on your field. They don't add resources when they're going to the graveyard like Shaddolls. There are better decks out there that recur resources better, and Lunalights doesn't really do that. And with polymerization and super poly, because you'll see in the extra deck what I try to bring out, pretty much use Verde's Anacondas of both effects to target one of your opponent's monster and make it dark, so you can start breaking boards using super poly. And that's when you do have enough monsters, to bring out Verde Anaconda, and that's what I'm saying. You need stuff in your graveyard and link climb. So if you do have those 2 Lunalight monsters to special summon that Verde Anaconda, you will have monsters in your graveyard to use the wolf, Lunalight Wolf, because her effect is that she lets you fusion summon using materials from your field or graveyard. So that's what you'll try to do. With polymerization and super poly, you really don't want to draw into this. It's more that try to break boards and stuff. And for the other 3 powerhouse cards is the 3 Tenki. This is pretty much your searcher too. Depends on what you need. Most likely you will search your Kaleido chick. That's where I usually try to search her, or depending if you already have her in your hand, pretty much. Tenki, just to activate to add search that Beast Warrior is really good, and it's also an Ash bait and a Gamma bait, so it's really good. The next 3 that I decided to run is Allure of Darkness versus the Pot of Desire. Pot of Desire is good, but as you can see, I have 1 polymerization and 1 super poly, so there's often times when it gets banished. So Allure of Darkness doesn't do that. You gotta draw 2, then banish 1, and when they do activate the Ash, they have to resolve the Ash, or when you activate Allure of Darkness, they gotta Ash you and negate the activation. Versus Pot of Desires, when you activate it, it's you gotta regardless, you gotta, for the cost of activating the effect, you banish 10. So I found more versatility with Allure of Darkness versus Pot of Desires in this build. And like I'm saying, the other bigger reason too is that I do run 1 polymerization. I was, like you can see, 1 polymerization and the 1 super poly. Banishing one or the other, it just does suck in your key plays, and that's pretty much the reason why I decided to run the 3 Allure of Darkness versus Pot of Desires. And that's all the spells. Now for the hand traps, as you guys pretty much know, 3 Ash Blossom, because you're going second, kills most rogue decks. And Psyframe Gamma at the very end, because depending what your opponent has, when you activate one of your spells, like this is what I will do pretty much, try to bait out any negate. You will activate Tenki. If your opponent has, like, let's say a Borolo Savage, you activate Tenki, it seems tempting, or Allure of Darkness seems tempting. You might negate it because you have no monsters on your field. You can still resolve Psyframe Gamma's effect to special summon him and negate the activation, and go where it goes. And it's just really good. That's what I really like Gamma in this deck specifically, because it really shined in this deck because it really needed it. And that's pretty much for like the 41 deck profile. Now I'm gonna show you what I added, certain spices, so for playing online mostly, and just because you're playing against very multiple decks, there's no day that you're not just playing just pure combo or pure control, or it's like everything in between. Sometimes like there's certain decks that flock, that just bring out a lot of monsters. There's certain decks that control, and I just want to have a versatility when I open up, going first or second. I want to have a little mix of everything. So when I do open up, I will have, these are the 1-0s that I run. One Abyss Current Razor, because it is an extender. It is also a dark with Allure of Darkness, because you do need a lot of dark targets to activate Allure of Darkness to resolve it. Because if you don't have no darks to banish, you discard their whole hand. So that's why I added Abyss Actor Current Razor, because it also, like I said, it's an extender. You could activate it in the Pendulum Zone. If you have no monsters, you could just special summon it. Pankrotrop's the same thing. It's mostly here just for the big beaters, just to go in second, and its effect just to tribute himself, just to negate or destroy a card is really good. Ancient Warrior, same thing. It's pretty much like a pseudo Pankrotop's, because when your opponent controls more monsters, you could special summon him, and if he has more monsters, you could target one of your opponent monsters and destroy it. So just a monster, it's not a spell or anything like Pankrotop's, but it's still here as a based warrior that I pretty much liked, and it really did save me in a few games and multiple games. Just to bait out, one time I was playing Dino, Shaddoll, Ligma, and it was there, Dogmatica. It was just Conductor Tyranno was on the field, and I was able to special summon him, and then he read the effect, and he was tempted to activate Tyranno's effect to quick effect. Discard one of, or just send something to the graveyard, one of his monsters to the graveyard, and flip everybody face down. So I baited that in the gate, and then I was still able to go along my merry way, because I baited that one negate that Dinos produced, and so it was really good. I'm saying it saved me a few games. The next powerhouse card is it now. You can see he's like Santos. Why you're putting Mystic Mine? What are you doing to your opponent? I understand, but Mystic Mine was really good because you only do have one big beater in your field, and you don't really care if your opponent has a lot of things in their field. Like you want them to build a board, so you could just produce one big monster and start swinging, and it's not a big problem for you. Like when I was playing Mystic Mine, I never seen the problem on me. Like I needed it to activate something to destroy it, or like it was hindering me from playing a little bit later, like keep on playing. It was mostly in my opponents when I do need it, or like at the very end they will try to have the same amount of monsters to just destroy it, and then even then that still buys me time to like add resources. And sometimes, like I'm saying, when you're playing with better decks of the format, they have part of the disparity to search, keep on digging in their deck to search that Harpy's Feather Duster, and they do still have outs. Like a lot of decks do have outs. So Mystic Mine, it is cheesy, but it is necessary because you're playing Lunalights and you're trying to, you're trying to play dirty with Lunalights. So now for the next two of, this is more for a budget option. Like all these cards are pretty like budget, I would say. Book of Moon is pretty much the same thing, well, not the same thing, but it's here for the same reasons for Infinite Impermanence, Forbidden Chalice. I've been, like I'm saying, when I'm playing online, I always see those barrier statue. It could be the light one. It could be because of Tri-Brigade with the what's called the barrier statue, the wind one. So Book of Moon is just here because when you do see those like Archlord Christia, certain Floodgates, Window 2, Book of Moon, you just want to send them like put them face down. It is certain interaction during your opponent's turn, but you just really these two cards are just here for those specific reasons of the barrier statues and the Floodgates like Window. And it could be Infinite Impermanence if you have the money. It doesn't really like, it does the same like somewhat kind of, but it's still good. And for the last one of is that Harpy Feather Duster, because the same reason, going against controlled decks depends who you're going against. You can like OTK, but then when they start regenerating with their abilities to keep on adding stuff and resources and stuff like that, because that's what they do, just to outgrind you, that's when you Lunalights fall short, and that's for the 10-0. Like that's gonna be a 50 card deck. That's what I've been running online. And now for the extra deck, went over the fusion monsters. The Lunalight package is the Lunalight Cat Dancer, one of, because I never seen the reason of running multiples. When I did, it hardly came up when it did. So I started with 3, see if I needed it, then 2, and then at the end I just needed more other stuff. So when I play against other decks, at least I have certain outs, and I can't say, oh, I didn't have this out, or that's why I lost because I didn't have this, So that's why I added certain things in the the main deck and the extra deck. So at least I have a certain out for depending what's on the board. you know. And Lunalight Cat Dancer, you just need 2 Lunalight monsters, and that's if you don't have enough Lunalights in your hand. That's what I'm saying. You need a lot of materials or fodder in your hand or in your graveyard. That's because that's how you mostly fusion summon. And her effects that you can, it cannot be destroyed by battle, but once per turn during your main phase 1, you can tribute 1 other Lunalight monster, and then for the rest of the turn, for the first time, each monster your opponent controls will be destroyed by battle. It is not destroyed. Also, this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls twice each this turn. So I mean, that hardly comes up because I'm saying, if you go first or second, this card is not hard to out. Like, it just cannot be destroyed by battle. But I mean, you still could compulse it. You could send it to the graveyard, and so that's why I'm saying she's not as strong as your other counterparts, like the other Panther Dancer, because you need 1 Lunalight Cat Dancer, and the way you will do that sometimes is using Kaleido's Chick's effect of sending 1 monster from your extra deck, and it becomes her name. And so you will send your Lunalight Cat Dancer, and then that way you will also send stuff in your graveyard, because you do need more monsters in your graveyard, so you could still keep on using monsters to fusion summon. So Lunalight Cat Dancer here is here because she's also great in the fact that she cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Also, once per turn during your main phase 1, you can activate this effect for the rest of this turn. The first time each monster your opponent controls will be destroyed by battle. It is not destroyed. Also, this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls twice each. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. It has that OTK potential, but I hardly see, because they have that restriction of like you need 1 Lunalight Cat Dancer. So I mean, it's just hard to have that requirement sometimes, because the only way you could really do is with Lunalight Fusion. If your opponent does have an extra deck monster, sometimes when I'm going against road decks, they don't even bring out an extra deck monster. So that was really hard also. And like I was saying, the only key card that does the same effect of having the same name as Kaleido Chick, and having that in your hand, it's somewhat iffy, because it is 50 cards if you do play the 50 card the way I showed you, but it's still good. I mean, I always didn't see that the problem of not having the material is just that it's harder to outgrind your opponent, or play against better decks pretty much. And you'll run 2 Lunalight Saber Dancer, 2 not 3, because I didn't really see the you only really do resolve 2 when it is those grind games, and 2 I really liked her a little bit more than the other Leo Dancer, because it's easier to bring her out, because she just needs 3 Lunalight monsters, and she must be fusion summoned, gains 200 attack for each beast warrior that is banished or in the graveyards. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects during your main phase 1, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard. You can banish this card in your graveyard, then target 1 fusion monster you control and against 3,000 attack until the end of the phase. So I mean, you can make one of your fusion monsters really big, and if you do are able to bring out Lunalight Dancer right after, and that's 2 of her, you could make her gain 3,000, and then she could attack twice. And like I'm saying, if you're able to bring her out, she does have that protection that she can't. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and like I'm saying, a lot of decks, it's really hard to out that that condition, or that effect, and that's why Lunalights had the ability to win certain decks. Like I was playing multiple decks. I was saying I won to Dragon Link, but that really depends on how he built that deck, and I did win to like Dino Shaddoll, Dogmatica, but like I'm saying, it just really depends on how you open up and knowing when to activate certain things. And just paying attention on the game, and that's really the key. That's how you'll probably win, because of certain things, and when to out certain things. And then Lunalight Leo Dancer is really good because she could attack twice during the battle phase, and then she has on top of she can't be destroyed by card effects. She cannot be targeted as well. So she has 2 protections versus Lunalight Saber Dancer 1 protection, and but the thing is, she's a little bit harder because she needs a Leo Panther Dancer plus 2 Lunalight monsters, when Lunalight Saber just needs 3. So when I was playing in games, you're trying to pretty much triple one of these out because they have the most protection. It doesn't mean you'll win, or it doesn't mean your opponent can out them. It just means like you might have that protection depending on what you're playing against, because it is hard to out them. And now for the other monsters I'm gonna go over is the one Psyframe Omega, because you are running Psyframe package, so it really does come up when it does come up. And for the one Verde Anaconda, because I do cheese out Verde Anaconda, so I could target one of your opponent monster to make it dark, and then from there use Super Poly, as you see in the deck, to target and do its thing, because that's the only way you could pretty much break boards, is cheesing Verde Anaconda right away and doing that. And I didn't decide to play Dragoon because I didn't really want to add the extra 3 bricks, and I wanted to do somewhat of a pure Lunalight build. And that was, Verde Anaconda with these 2 cards is really good. The Predator Plant monster, not so much, because it needs 3 dark monsters. It doesn't mean that I don't bring them out. It just means that it's just harder, because when I'm playing against rogue decks that aren't dark, and Verde Anaconda, you could only target. I would always use Verde Anaconda plus another opponent's monster to make it dark, and just to bring out certain Venom Fusion Dragon, because just to break boards and just to keep on going my merry way. And these 2 were really good. I really seen it for heroes and some like Dark Magician, really pretty much dark decks. For now, for the XC's monster, is that I run 1 Baguska, because if you're forced to go first and you do have ways to bring 2 level 4 monsters, you could just end on Baguska and stall for a bit. But that's pretty much it. You just want to stall, put it in defense mode, and wait for a bit till you could add resources. A best dweller, because same thing, like when if you're what you're playing against, setting that up is not bad. The 1 Tornado Dragon, same thing. If you know what your opponents are adding, like a field spell or something, and you're able to bring Tornado Dragon and wait for his turn to activate certain or like set stuff. Tornado Dragon just to a quick effect, destroy that spell and trap is really good. And for the last monster is that number 1 Silent Honor Arc, because when you're playing against Dualditch or just anything that brings out Zeus or Megaclops, and when I was playing against heroes, they brought out a Malicious Bane. I think that fusion monster, it's like the expensive one. He can also be destroyed by battle or card effects. And so numbers 1 and 1 Silent Arc doesn't target, or it does target, but I mean it takes control, so it doesn't it bypasses those 2 conditions of cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects for those 2 monsters. And number 1 and 1 here is just to take control and just to get over those hard monsters. So, and that's pretty much for the deck profile, you guys. That's the 50 card and the 15 extra deck. And Lunalight's really fun. I really liked it. I know people are saying like, oh no, it's a slow deck and you're not gonna win, and that's fine. It's not about winning for me. I like the decks that I like to play, and then seeing, and I'm saying I'm able to play this deck and I still get certain wins. And am I winning all the time? No. The funny part is that, it's a 50-50 going against any deck, and then if you're playing against better decks in the format, it's like 30% chance that you might win, 70% chance that they are going to win against you, because they are playing the better decks. So the format, because they're built to be better, and you're playing Lunalights, so I mean, what could you really expect against those type of decks? But it is really fun. I was, like I'm saying, I was getting certain wins, and people were somewhat surprised when I was playing online to see a Lunalight player and be able to cheese out wins is really fun. And that's pretty much the deck profile, you guys. If you like what we're doing, like and subscribe. This is Santos representing Neo Overlay Network, signing out.